Okay, welcome back. And unfortunately, the audio did not capture on this. So I am doing it right now. We're going to be going through in the wiring. we're going to just start wiring everything. Obviously, the dash needs to get wired. All the wiring needs to get done for the switches. So we're going to start. The yellow is for the tail light. The black and white is for a turn signal. So those are those lights you see, the wires you see right there. And the purple actually goes toward the um, the hazards. So you can see the green and the green striped wire in the headlight bucket. Those are basically for um, the front light. So that is um, and I'm testing out the rear flasher, the left and the right. And so if you go really slowly doing this, it really actually is correct the first time. And the second is if you have a good set of crimpers for your connectors, then again, it works fine all the time. So I am, I'm really just testing the wires right there just to make sure everything is good to go. And it is. So we have power there. So the flasher works. And again, the flasher relay is just below the voltage regulator, which is underneath the seat. And this blue wire that I'm working on right now, the blue wires go toward go well, they're for the spotlight or the spotlights. So we're going to be installing two spotlights, and the and I have a black wire in my hand there as well. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a gray. What color is that wire? It is well, let's see what we're going to do. Obviously the blue wire is for the spotlight, and I can't really tell what color wire that is. So everything is really color coordinated, so it just gets so quick and so easy to identify what wire is what. Obviously, black is ground, and black also is for brake. Um, Black is also for horn as well. And so the spotlights get wired in the bucket, but the power gets transferred up into the dash. There is a toggle switch, not a toggle switch, there's a pull switch for the spotlights. So in this case, it looks like I'm just putting connections. Oh, I'm actually going to sleeve it. So I'm sleeving it. So that looks like that's a sleeve that's going to go up toward the dash. The color coding of the wire really makes all the difference in the world. So if you are diligent about maintaining the correct color coding, you will never have an issue. And if you do have an issue, you'll be able to solve the issue so quickly. I actually prefer doing the wiring. It's actually kind of fun. Um, it is absolutely the most time consuming. You would think everything else would be so quick and easy, and it is not. Um, I'm going to say 25% of my time is spent on wiring. That switch right there is for the that was a three-way toggle switch, and that is for the hazards. Well, it's six ways. It only goes. It's either on or off for hazards. So I'm calling it a three-way. I think it is a three-way, but it's not really a three-way. It has six connectors underneath. Obviously, cable management is really important, and I'm not saying I necessarily have a great system for doing it. What I do have is, um, I guess I try to make it as neat as possible, and I try to sleeve everything in vinyl sleeves as much as possible to prevent any chafing of the wire, but also just to keep it organized. So these are connections to where I am. So the spotlights and the turn signals and the hazards, and obviously the hazards are the turn signals. Everything gets connected underneath the tank. So I've shown in other videos where there are basically three-way connectors that go underneath the tank, and that's the same with the spotlight. So it is. Um, so right now we're going to make the connections to the. Well, we're gonna string the wire up through to the dash so that we will wire the switches up there. And from the dash, it will go down through underneath to the three-way connector underneath the tank. That is the pull switch. There are two different pull switches. There's one pull switch for ignition. It turns ignition on and off. It provides power to the coil. And the second switch is the push-pull switch is for the spotlights. And yes, I always forget to pull the ignition switch up. So every time I try to start the bike, it doesn't start. I have to remember to pull the switch up. It's actually kind of nice because with one switch, you can cut power to the coil. But you can make it so that bike stops immediately. And again, with it being a police bike, that's what it's for. So the police can actually just turn the thing off immediately. And you see that white wire that is sticking out of the bucket? Well, that's going to get weaved up through. The white wire is basically a lead that acts as a jumper for, I think, two or three of the lights. So we have to build like a little jumper wire where that one wire connects to three different lights. And if you go to Greg Bender's website where he lists all of the different types of wiring harnesses he builds, one of them is a a jumper harness for those lights. There are probably 10 different color wires too that you're going to use. And obviously there's black, green. Black is ground. Green is basically like neutral. Gray is for the oil sensor. Yellow is for the tail light and also for the power light for the front headlight bucket. Although the connectors going to the headlight are green, green and yellow, and green and black. And black. Actually, I just think it's green, green and black, and black. Um, there is red. Obviously, red is power. Blue is, like I said, is for spotlights. There's white and black and yellow and black. Those are for the turn signals. The blue and black goes to the coil. Brown and blue and black go from the starter button to, in essence, the starter relay. The blue and black picks up power, takes it to the start button, and then the brown connects to the starter relay. I use the same convention for colors for the relays. So I don't change up that convention, which is yellow, white, red, yellow, red, white, black, and blue. And I understand that I'm using 5-pin relays, but I only really use 4 of the 5 pins. In some bikes, I use it as a 5-pin, and I use the 5-pin when I'm using it for a headlight. So you can wire high beam and low beam on one relay if you are going to have your headlight burn all the time, so that when you turn the bike on, it's either high beam or low beam, and the relay is going to switch between high beam and low beam. But most of my bikes, I don't do that because they had it so they have it so you have a switch to turn the lights on and off. And I'm feeding wires through, and I'm actually connecting lights through, and I'm using LED lights just for, I want as low a power as possible. There's no need to go for, they're probably 4 or 5 watts, the normal ones, and these things are like maybe a watt. And so it is nice to check as I go. I will say the charging light's rather interesting. Now, the charging light, you connect power to both sides so that when you turn the bike on and the generator's not running, the lead going from the terminal on the generator to the light is actually negative. So that light will pop on. The second that the generator gets up to speed, it flips from negative or neutral to positive. So you'll have 2 positives going to the light, and the light will turn off. So that's kind of an interesting way of the way. I mean, it's an interesting concept how it works. The neutral obviously is a ground. The oil sensor, oil pressure switch is actually a ground as well. So once the oil pressure comes up, it activates the ground, so it turns off the light. It is so it is inherently grounded, but once you hit pressure, it switches the ground off, so it turns the light off. And the other 2 lights up there are for the turn signals, left and right. And obviously, I put a light on there for the spotlight, so when the spotlight is on, the little light comes on. And the final light is the light for the headlights. I actually have it set up for high beam, so that when high beam is on, that light comes on. And you can do it either way. You can do it just if you want you want that light to come on when the lights are on. But it is I think the convention is for to be high beam. So the vinyl tubing that I'm using, I'm getting from Amazon, and it's, I don't know, $5 or $6 for like 10 or 15 feet. You really, you don't need much of it. I get like the 1/4 inch and the 3/8 inch, and I have a little bit of 1/2 inch. The 1/2 inch is the big trunk that runs along the frame or the spine of the bike. The and again, most of these are bullet connectors. The spotlights right here are not. So on the spotlights, I've got power running in on one side, and on the other side, I have power going to the switch. I'm sorry, I have power going to the three. I have power going to the connector underneath, but it also is connecting a little lead that would go to the spotlight light. So the little idiot light that would go on the dash. So that's why you see a blue wire going in there in the push pull switch for the spotlight, and there are two wires coming out. One is going to the actual splitter for the spotlights, and the other goes to, well, it is going to go to the idiot light for the spotlights. And I guess I don't like calling it idiot light. I don't know what else to call it. That's what they call them, idiot lights. Once this bike is wired, if you really have to take the bike apart, it is not really a problem because it sounds, you think that it's just like a wire, a crazy wired mess, and it is not. So I understand that it takes hours and hours to wire this bike, but if you have to disengage everything, like taking the headlight bucket off, you can take it off in probably 10 minutes, and you can probably put it back on in about 25 minutes because everything is color coded. You know where everything needs to go. Um, if you need to disconnect the wiring harness by the voltage regulator, again, everything is labeled back there. So it's not really that hard. And it is, if you have the left turn signals, it's a bundle of 4 wires. You plug it into this relay. The right turn signal, it's a bundle of wires. You plug into that relay. The starter button, it's another relay. The low beam and high beam, again. So everything is color coded. Everything just, they have bullet connectors. So you just pull the bullet connectors apart and disconnect it. So let's say that you want to take the fender off, the rear fender, and you would just disconnect the bullet connectors for the turn signals. You would disconnect them for the brake light and the tail light, and the stoplight, and you're good to go. And reconnecting it is really not that hard. Um, and it doesn't take that long. I mean, it's really super fast. So, but that's the benefit of keeping with the convention of making sure everything stays color coded. Everything is color coded per that wiring diagram. So I'm going to make sure I post the wiring diagram for this bike. And now I know some people have, here goes the thing. Some people have a white and black wire where the black and white spirals around. I don't know if I have that necessarily on this one, but um, it's a black and white wire. So if it calls for a black and white wire, it's a black and white wire. And it is, so you can see 3 of my police bikes right there. And you can see they have a nice fine layer of dust from my sandblasting cabinet. It's a Harbor Freight sandblasting cabinet. It's okay. I'm not going to use it again until it is absolutely positively sealed up. And so once I get these bikes moved out, I'm going to kind of work on that. Um, so, like I said, these crimpers that I use are spectacular. They were inexpensive. I need to put a link. So these particular crimpers, the crimpers come with a bunch of bullet connectors, and I've had like two or three different sets of these things, and they just don't crimp. These crimp fantastic. I've out of 1,000 crimps on this, maybe one is bad. It is they crimp so well, and and they crimp all types so well. And I love those bullet connectors now. I mean, it is. I thought that was kind of goofy and weird, and I love them. And now, keep in mind, in this fuse panel, I am using spade connectors for fuses, and I'm using it so I have um, I have like the ring connectors. I mean, I really kind of want that. I don't want bullet connectors plugging into the fuse panel. But other than that, it is. I love those bullet connectors. It is. They come with the waterproof cases, so yeah, you build it, you put them on, and I use them all the time. And you want to put an inline fuse next to your battery, cut the wire, strip it, put a bullet connector, you're good to go. It's love them. And so here I go fixing the camera again. Um, sorry about the video quality, and I'm sorry that it did not pick up again the um, the audio. So I am actually superimposing this, and so the headlight bucket still looks nice and neat, and it looks kind of tedious when you are continually crimping and um, preparing the wires, but it is you got to do it. So obviously, right there, I'm making some type of jumper, and oh, that's going to be a jumper for the hazards. Now, that is an extremely complicated wiring scenario because because you have a flasher that provides that goes to both sides, left and right. And you then need a jumper to activate both at the same time. And so that's where that three-way toggle switch. Then again, it's two-way. It's either on or off, but um, it provides a jumper in the it provides either on or off. And if it's off, it is just regular turn signal. Yep, the camera still wants to look at me. If you look at my watch, it's 4:48 in the morning. I really mess around with these bikes in the early morning. And if you look at the battery, I actually get batteries from Walmart. And that's just a lawn and garden tractor battery. Um, and it's like $30, but it's good enough. And um, I will use the existing starter or the old starter if it's good, but they lag. And I normally put one of the well, it's a lower voltage, but it's a super high torque starter. And it just uses so much less power. And so I've never had an issue with these batteries. They are fine. Um, I am plugging something into the distribution panel right there. And that right hand side there is, and again, this. I hate to say it, this video is backwards. So, um, the tail light works, and the hazards work, and so right turn signal, left turn signal works, and 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 even though the spotlight is not connected, the idiot light will work for it. So that blue wire is to the spotlights. So once we connect that and we put a bullet terminal and we connect it to the distribution panel, then that little idiot light, when you pull that little toggle switch, the idiot light will come on. Even though the obviously the spotlights aren't installed yet. So the spotlights, I think I'm actually going to be well. Obviously, I'm going to install it on the fuse panel, not in the distribution panel, because I think we had an extra spot available. And I think I told you before that normally there's like an inline fuse in there. Um, I guess that's a ground I'm putting in there. So that's going to be a ground. I see that blue wire still sticking up. I think I'm still going to use that. I don't think so. That is just, again, that's just another ground going to the headlight bucket. And well, it looks like I am going to put that in a distribution panel. I guess I must have an extra slot somewhere in there. Those are the bulbs I'm going to try to use. They're LED bulbs. I only need one of them for the headlight bucket. I'm showing it to you. It's not going to work because I don't have it's these. It is crazy, but if you try to do an LED bulb, they just there's not enough space in there. And even with this new fuse panel, which is lower than the existing one, than the previous one, it's still not enough. I mean, because it starts hitting the fuses and it doesn't work. So yeah, I'm just trying to get some more space there. And so that goes to that green wire is to the headlight, and I am putting that in the distribution panel. So even though the spotlight is not, or the spotlights are not hooked up yet, the idiot light should come on. So turn the key back on, brake light comes on, or that the lights come on. Okay, so that's the idiot light for the spotlights. Off, on, off, on. So once the spotlights are come on, that toggle switch will turn on the idiot light and it'll turn on the actual spotlights. So I think I have all of the idiot lights kind of installed. So really the next step is probably to actually install them in the actual dash because it looks like everything is done. And I hate to say it, other than tidying things up, I mean, if you look at the bike, you can be riding that bike in an hour. I mean, I'm not going to ride in an hour, but because off camera, I painted the tank and I painted the tank just like I painted everything else. So it's really no big secret about how it looks. Um, and I think that is for the right turn signal. I think that's the white wire with the black stripe on it. I'm just trying to get an estimate about how much I would need. If you look at the bike right now, you're going to see that I don't have the distributor cap is not on and the valve covers are not on. Normally, just right at the very end, I just touch base and check with everything just to make sure everything is good to go. So I'm going to check the valve clearances again, and I'm going to take a look at the points gap as well. And again, I don't think I changed on anything on either, but it doesn't really hurt the check. So right now I am going to work on wiring the, I'm checking the bulb, to be honest. We have idiot lights for the turn signals. So in the dash, there are lights to where when I hit the right turn signal, there's like a little idiot light that comes on that flashes. You won't believe it. Those bulbs, they have to go in a particular way. I mean, those are fussy bulbs. There we go. I'm just testing the light. The light works. So I am going to I'm going to wire the idiot lights for those as well. I think those are the last lights that I have to kind of do. So you have the turn signal lights, you have the neutral, the generator, the um, the oil light, you have the high beam light, and you have the spotlight. Those are the little idiot lights that are actually on the dash. For some reason, that wire looks incredibly short. I have no idea what that's for. Okay, so this is a connector that I am making. So this is a way of spreading power, and to quite a few. That's a three-way splitter. I have a wire going in there, and then I can connect it three different ways. So it is it's a connector that I can connect three more bullets into that, three more bullet terminals. I'm just tying up the turn signals right there. Those are the lights for the turn signals. And I'm going to have them hang down until I'm ready to go. At this point, we've really come a long way in getting this bike to actually run and run reliably, but it's been clean, it's been retooled, it's been rewired, and it's been de-rusted really, so that it's anything that I could plate, I've plated it so that it is, hopefully can get another 50 years out of it. So those are wires that are going to go underneath. They're going to go from the dash to underneath, to those splitters that are going to be underneath the gas tank, and that's where they connect to the turn signals. It sounds kind of kooky, but it is. I know that you can see the turn signals work, and they do, but those two wires turn the turn signals on simultaneously when the hazard switch is turned on. Okay, sorry about that. We are back, and we are connecting the. We are going to connect the